On a work trip to Los Angeles,
only the amazing Spider-Man could find himself battling a colossal demon bear conjured straight from his nightmares. Okay, big guy, I have a pretty good feeling you're the one behind all these shenanigans, and I don't like it, Peter shouted as one huge claw sliced inches away from his skull. The bear that stood before him was easily twice the size of any normal beast, and its burning...
What is up, gladiators and Uncles? Greetings, gladiators and Uncles. Your boy JayShrekReacts. Another Power and Comics review. This is Spider-Man Goes Insane.
Here need to finish up our experiment so we can save the world. As he spoke, the bear lifted Peter with ease in its claws, glaring down at Spider-Man through hateful eyes. Though the ancient beast couldn't use words itself, to Spidey's surprise, his brain began filling with psychic messages emanating off of the bear itself. It's like I'm having an entire dialogue using emojis, but with a million more characters than any smartphone. Peter thought to himself as his consciousness took to the bear's psychic messages. Makes me wonder if this is how Professor X reads minds. As the demon bear sits snarling at Peter, it explains that the experiments Spidey and his colleagues have been conducting weakened the junction between its world and the real world. The nightmare realm was at risk of colliding with the prime reality, and Peter Parker was stuck in the middle. Spidey stared back intently as the bear explained how Peter was infected with the nightmare realm itself and was at risk of losing himself to a world of nightmares, eternally. Suddenly, just like that, the bear vanishes. Peter is back in his lab coat watching the experiment that had conjured the beast fizzle and sputter. With their work unfinished and Peter's mind racing with visions of the nightmare realm, he and his lab partner Crystal agreed to grab some grub at a nearby diner. Sitting down for some food, it doesn't take long for a stranger to approach Peter and Crystal right as Spidey was starting to talk about other dimensions. "Sorry to interrupt," the man said, "but I was handed this earlier today and told to give it to a confused man and woman." He handed the two scientists a parcel and went on his way. Inside the envelope was a raven feather and a simple note reading, "Sir Coffee." Alarmed, Peter began slowly stirring his brew. "You seeing this, Crystal?" he asked as hints of the nightmare realm began swirling around inside the mug. Without warning, a jet-black, red-eyed crow erupted out from Peter's coffee cup. "Yeah, I'm seeing this," Crystal told him, less frightened than one might expect. "But I'm not sure I understand what's happening." Peter decided to trust Crystal and reveal his meeting with the demon bear to her. "This is insane," Crystal told him. "We are both seeing strange creatures dancing in the coffee, right?" "I'd say we're between dimensions," Peter intuited. As they watched the beast-like shadows swirl in the coffee, Peter's own eyes began to glow a dark yellow. "What happened back there, Peter?" Crystal asked. "I have 3 days to find the maze," Peter told her darkly. "It's where the demon bear is waiting. And if I don't, everyone's nightmares become reality." Back at Crystal's place, the two scientists work until they drop, both falling asleep in the middle of trying to track down this supposed maze. The next morning, Peter awakes in a daze. Crystal has long since left, and Peter finds the strange magical rock that started it all on the ground beside them. Spidey picks up the stone from the carpet and realizes that he might be out of his depth meddling with such powerful magical artifacts. "I'd better call an expert," Peter realizes, reaching for his phone, dialing a familiar number. "Wong?" Peter answers. "Yeah, I need some advice. Actually, I need some help." Hours later, Peter is swinging through the sun-drenched streets of LA. He turns into the alleyway Wong had set as a meeting place for an associate of his. Why is it always in a dark alley? And why are there always goons? Peter wonders to himself as he lands in front of the thugs. "Hello, my well-dressed morning party people," Peter joked as he approached. From behind, a voice rang out across the alley. "Spider-Man! Wong said to expect you, but I thought you'd have been here an hour ago." Spidey looked up at the wizard standing before him. Unlike the more ancient leanings of Wong and his employer, Dr. Strange, this woman's dress was modern and chic. "Traffic," Spidey lied as he followed her into her sanctum, which was humming with not just magic, but technology as well. Wong's magic and my magic are a bit different. I come from a more scientific approach. So, let's get started. Spider-Man held up the chunk of rock that had summoned the demon bear. "This is the culprit," he told her. The wizard put on a pulsating magical glove, accentuated with some sort of futuristic technology. Interesting, she said. There's a great power in this rock. Where did you get this? Spidey fibbed. Sort of fell into my lap. It is ancient magic. Otherworldly, the witch said as her magic glove revealed the colors and deep inlaid magical powers hidden within the stone. This rock is both the beginning and the end. It holds the patterns connected to nature, she rattled off to Spidey as he watched her work. Her eyes went slack as she stared into the heart of the stone. The numbers are in the spiral. The spiral returns to a point. It becomes a spiral again, this time on the other side. Suddenly, the laboratory melted away and Spidey was lifted up on a platform with the wizard. Your rock came from the other side of that point, she said, lifting the rock aloft and allowing the magic within to cascade all around, changing the physical space she and Spidey shared. The sequence is everywhere and everything. It connects to the symmetry of the multiverse. Spider-Man could do nothing but stare up at the grand majesty being revealed to his very eyes. It holds all the knowledge from the other side, the wizard told him, but her voice darkened as she lowered the rock and it began floating towards Spider-Man on its own. But this rock has a sickness inside, and this sickness is desperate to be free. When the stone made contact with Peter, he screamed in agony as magical energy ripped through his body and erupted out of his chest. His eyes crackled with lightning and his hands grew clawed and beast-like. The stone became fused within his chest where his spider symbol naturally sat. He didn't understand the pain he was feeling and wasn't sure if it would ever cease. Peter collapsed to the floor, the rock still lodged within his body. I feel the rock pulsate in my chest, he thinks as he tries to crawl across the floor. There is an insane amount of dark power coursing through my body. I feel the nightmares bubbling to get out. Hearing the commotion, the armed guards rush into the room, training their blasters on Spider-Man. What did you do to her? They yell. Peter's spider sense is the only thing that allows him to spring up and out of the way as the goons try to ambush him. Nothing! She's fine, I promise! Peter shouts back, desperate to put an end to the fighting and focus on keeping the nightmares contained. But no sooner had Peter called out that he felt an armored uppercut collide hard with his jaw, sending him once more to the floor. The guard looked down at the stunned Spider-Man and took another brutal swing without warning, sending blood flying across the magic lab. Wait, Peter started, but a swift kick to the face once more sent him reeling. Lies! One guard yelled. For that, you must die. Before Peter could react, fists were flying towards him, beating him again and again and again until everything went black. Peter awoke with a start to his ringtone blaring loudly. He was back at Crystal's apartment, right where he'd gone to sleep. Crystal was asleep across from him on the couch. It seemed as though she hadn't moved from when they had both fallen asleep working. Hello? Peter said, groggy and utterly confused. Hey, Brandy? Yep, still down, he said, grimacing at the slight pain in his chest. Peter lifted up his shirt to see what was the matter. Brandy? He said as he stared, horrified at the rock that was now implanted beneath his skin, seeping magical purple energy out through his veins. Yeah, Peter said. I'm gonna have to call you back. The rock that had attached itself to Peter's chest was full of strange symbols and ancient writings. I recognized some of the symbols on the stone from the crazy coffee incident, Peter remembers. Obviously, the demon bear is the key to it all, but is it a story within a dream or a nightmare corrupting reality? Unfortunately, the mysteries behind the rock's markings were one that Peter alone couldn't decode. Staring into the mirror, Peter stared at the huge stone affixed to the center of his chest. Suddenly, a flash of red and inky black shone in the mirror. When Peter looked up again, a life-size crow stood in the bathroom with him, a long robe hiding its razor-sharp beak. Oh, who are you? Peter asked without hesitation. Come, the crow said as the reflection in the mirror began twisting and turning with dreamlike spirals. And if I don't? Peter asked, but the stone in his chest began twisting and turning, growing tendrils that reached out towards the mirror. Doesn't look like I have much of a choice, Peter said as the long tendrils pierced the mirror, opening a full-on portal in the middle of the bathroom. The grated voice of the crow spoke out behind him. If you wish to discover the maze, I suggest you join me. As Peter stared into the mirror and into the dream dimension, his eyes once more sparked a bright yellow. Show me the way, Mr. Crow, he said. When Peter stepped through the mirror, he was plunged into a blood-red world, stretching as far as the eye could see. In the center of his vision, a giant city towered before Spidey. It was once a beautiful home, the crow told Peter as his eyes grew wide at the sight of the city. And now, the crow's voice lowered, it is where a sickness lives, pulling us all closer to the end. The demon bear wishes to send it back. Come, the crow commanded. We have little time before you shift back to your reality. Dutifully, Spidey followed after him, moving further and further into the strange alien landscape. To you, this is a dream. For others, this is home. The crow spoke in riddles as he carried Peter towards the city on his back. Who did this? Peter asked. You did, the crow responded gravely. And if you die here, you won't be able to finish your story. Spidey protested against the blame placed on him. Whoa, buddy, I didn't do this. No way. Below, great oceans of blood filled with spider-like outcroppings passed by. Dreams are woven to reality, the crow told Peter as they flew. Stories are written between waking and dying. Peter still wasn't totally understanding as they reached the city's edge. A gnarled mass of wood, steel, and concrete lay before them in a sinister spiral shape. But this isn't real, Peter said. The crow didn't look at him. Yet here we are, and here it is. Suffering. Wait, Peter interjected. Does this mean that my reality is a product of someone else's dream? The crow had reached its destination, and with that, the end of his and Peter's talk. There is not time enough for an explanation, it said. Instead, you must understand the center of the maze. Show me the way, Mr. Crow, Spidey told his strange new friend, and around them the city twisted and roiled around them, moving in ways Spidey's mind couldn't even begin to comprehend. I trust you to be my guide. No sooner had they started making their way through the tangled mess of buildings and streets that Spider-Man's spider sense began to flare up. I think you should know, there's a big something wicked this way coming, he yelled down at the crow, who was flying him directly into the maw of the giant demon bear. We are almost there, the crow said as they sped ahead. Just a little further. The fangs of the demon bear seemed to swallow Spider-Man whole as he sped into the bear's gullet. Suddenly, at the last possible moment before disaster, a magical pattern appeared before Peter's eyes. There, the crow shouted out. Your answer is within the patterns. Follow the stars and find the way to the center of your maze. And just like that, I'm back in the bathroom, Peter realizes as he awakes right back where he stood before his hair-raising journey. On the mirror before him, he subconsciously traced the symbol that the crow showed him within the dream. Peter stands there and studies the rune carefully. There's a pattern here, he knows. I just can't see it. A knock on the door sent Peter out of his daze. Lost track of time. Peter scrambled as Crystal beckoned him to finish up in the bathroom. Peter snapped a picture of the arcane rune on the mirror before wiping it clean, eager to keep his hallucinations and dreamlike visions to himself. Never leave for a long trip without stretching. You should join me, Crystal said as Peter finally stepped out. As they stretched beside each other, Crystal tried to pry more information out of Peter, but with no luck. How'd you sleep last night? Any more weird dreams or visions? She asked nonchalantly. I slept like a rock, Peter lied, but internally he was conflicted. I want to tell Crystal about my flight of the crow, but something's keeping me from sharing, he thought to himself. As Crystal began telling Peter a bedtime story her grandfather would recite to her before bedtime, some interesting parallels began to emerge. There was a rock named Aya, Crystal told Peter, who nearly jumped at the mention of a rock. Rock? What kind of rock? He asked her pointedly. A powerful rock, she said. When Coyote stole from the rock came for him. It smashed everything and flattened Coyote. Peter took a deep breath. There's something I need to show you, he said as he lifted up his shirt to reveal the rock implanted in his chest. But when Peter looked up at Crystal, she didn't rear back the way he expected. Nice abs, she told him. You work out? Peter looked down at his own chest to find it was completely clear. No rock, no magic artifact. Not even so much as a scar. What the? He wondered to himself. Am I losing my mind? He looked up at Crystal. I swear I'm not crazy, he told her. She embraced him warmly. It's going to be okay, she assured him. Thanks, Peter told her. Means a lot, you being here for me. Peter and Crystal decided to throw the frisbee around before they were picked up by some friends for a backcountry road trip. As they tossed the disc back and forth, Peter's throw went wide and the frisbee landed near a crow standing in the street. Crystal approached the animal to retrieve the disc, and when she looked up, she knew something was wrong. "What the?" she managed to say. Without warning, the bird's beak opened wide and outstormed an entire murder of red-eyed crows. They screamed out of the first crow's throat and tore through the sky above, whizzing and spiraling like they were under some sort of horrible spell. Peter and Crystal looked on in abject horror. Still shaking, Peter and Crystal were silent as the blackbirds retreated into the sky. The truck pulled up to pick them up, beeping as it waited. "Did you see that?" Peter asked Crystal, desperation in his voice. "Either we're having a shared hallucination, or a ton of tiny crows just flew out of that crow's mouth," she said back. Their friends popped open the trunk to let the two of them in, and just like that, Peter and Crystal were on their way. Driving through the desert, screaming their favorite pop tunes, Peter and his friends cruised into the sunset without a care in the world. Or, at least, his friends were carefree. Peter was glancing out of his window anxiously, feeling all was not fully right with the world. "I look over at Crystal and she doesn't see what I'm seeing," Peter thinks. "There's a large storm gathering in the distance." Peter looks around frantically. "They all keep singing. It's like they're in a trance," he realizes. Leaning out of the truck window, Peter gets a better look at the approaching cloud. Once on top of the roof, Spider-Man suits up, out of habit more than anything. As they get closer to the dark mass in the sky, Peter realizes it's not a cloud at all. It's crows. As soon as Peter sees the crows for what they really are, a sandstorm whips up around the truck and throws the vehicle off the road. Spidey webs his friends safely before they hit the ground and heads off towards the gathering birds, equal parts terrified and eager to see where this strange adventure will take him next. Peter whips his way through the cloud of crows, feathers and talons flashing in the air all around him. He races in front of the birds, but slowly the crows begin to overtake him. Are they friend or foe? Peter worries as the cloud engulfs him. There's only one way to find out. As the crows crowd him, Peter has nothing to web to and unceremoniously thuds into the desert sand. Stepping out of the dust cloud, 100-foot-tall Spider-Man rises, a cloud of murderous crows following his every colossal footstep. "I submit to the crows and trust them to be my guide," Peter thinks to himself. He feels the ancient magic flowing through his gigantic form and knows that the ancient stone has once more affixed itself within his chest. I become one with the murder as a burning rage pumps through my veins, flowing from the stone heart. Spidey feels deep within himself. As he gives himself to this strange magical energy, more and more of the mysteries of the dream realm become clear to him. As the gigantic Spider-Man strides across the desert sands, his mind is affixed on the opponent he knows he must soon face. The demon bear is about to feel the full fury of this deadly neighborhood Spider-Man. For more of the deadly neighborhood Spider-Man, check out part 1.
Being boy JayShrek, I'm out.